I think we're probably going to end up talking for hours.
Oh, for hours, I know, right? For sure, for sure. And I love that. Welcome back to the Shine Within podcast. You're in for a nice treat today. I have a Leslie Lindsey Davis. She is an acclaimed speaker and author of the bestsellers like You Can't Eat to Love and Their Journey from Failing to Healing. Her forthcoming book, What Color Is My Shirt? Trusting Your Emotions, continues her mission to inspire self-love and emotional resilience. With her engaging presence and genuine insight, Leslie has impacted thousands, selling over 10,000 books and featuring in nearly 100 podcasts and numerous summits. So, what an honor to have you on my show, Leslie. Thank you so much. And I'm
Well, Gina,
excited.
I'm just speechlessly excited to be talking to you because what you talk about is so relevant and so real, and I admire how brave you are for getting out there and revealing everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes. And, the bad, it needs to be shared, like a lot of people are afraid to share the ugly, the skeletons in the closet. Ooh. People are afraid. But, I think the more that people are coming out of their comfort zone and saying, you know what, this is what happened to me. This is what I've gone through. And this is what I need help in, it brings awakening to many others that are going through the same thing or are just trying to just be relatable to somebody because it's hard out there.
Well, and oftentimes we think that it's just us.
Right.
And then we also start thinking that, I mean, I don't know about you, but I thought I was broken. I
Yeah.
thought I was broken, that there was something horribly, absolutely wrong with me, and that I would never, ever be able to feel the way I wanted to feel or live the life that I dreamed of living. And it turned out that the only problem that I had was I didn't know how to love myself.
Mhm.
And, once I went on that journey, I started looking back, and not only was it my journey, but sitting here today, what I can see is a lot of the problems that I struggled with, they go back generations.
Mhm.
And when I understood that this stuff, my thought processes, my beliefs, my understanding, even the way that I talk to myself went back generations, I started having a better understanding of, well, of course I did what I did. And of course I thought the way that I thought. And that's what so many people don't understand. But you know what, Gina? I don't know about you, but I don't blame my parents. I used to blame my parents, but I no longer blame them because just like my grandparents, they were all doing the best that they could with the information that they had based on what they had been taught at the time. And now I have the power to make a different choice. And as a consequence of being able to make a different choice, I can look at them, look at my parents with different eyes. My mother's been gone now for 40 years this year. My dad's been gone for 7 or 8. Math is not my strong suit, but that's okay. But I can look at them and I can have a better understanding, and I can also be more gracious towards them with regard to the choices that they made when they were, raising their family. But as I said, oftentimes we try and blame our parents, but let's put a stake in the ground. The past is the past. It is what it is. We can make a different choice going forward. Let's stop trying to excuse the past. I don't know about you. Do you ever time travel backwards?
Oh, I used to. And then back then, I used to time travel and I used to be like, stuck in a rut, hated myself again, and relived everything. But now I look at it differently. It's interesting because now I look at the past, I'm like, I am grateful for everything that I've experienced. And I am so appreciative that everything that I have gone through is for a reason. That pain turned into purpose, and that purpose right now can help many people, many people that are struggling. And then once we find out who we truly are and our purpose here and our mission here on earth, then we can help them find their purpose and their mission. And it goes on so forth, like a ripple effect. And I think it's a beautiful thing.
Exactly. And probably you spend a lot of your time looking for and talking to the other Ginas in the world, don't you?
Yeah. And I found many. And then I found like I'm like a Leslie. I'm like my name is also Leslie. My name is also like there's so many women that I'm like, oh, we're all one, it's just a beautiful thing.
And we're not the only ones. And here
Right.
we are. I mean, I don't know about you, but for me, it took me hitting what I hate to call it a rock bottom moment because I feel like that's tempting the fates to say, I'm going to show you rock bottom.
Oh
So
yeah.
I hit, a really dark moment and I recognized that I could go one of two directions. Now, I'm not going to say that this happened one time in my life, but this moment, this dark moment, was at a time in my life where I felt like if I did not do something, that I truly was going to continue the way that I was going, and it wasn't going to end well. I had tried before, but in this particular moment, it was so dark that I said, okay, enough is enough. We're going to drive a stake in the ground. And I do have a literal stake in the ground in my backyard with a date on it that I decided I'm going to get healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I tell people if I'd have known how hard it was going to be, I don't think I ever would have started. But
Yeah.
making one choice, one decision, taking one tiny step, what it is that we have to do, we just take one tiny step and then we take one tiny step. And what made the difference this time when I made this choice was I started celebrating every teeny tiny microscopic win. And I started ignoring every teeny tiny microscopic time I messed up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then my brain quit looking for the negative self-talk that it was feeding off of. It started looking for the celebrations. Now,
That's
I'm
right.
not to say I don't still negative self-talk or don't still negative, slide off into all of that kind of stuff. It does happen. It does happen, but not as much as it used to.
Yes, I remember. Well, and it's interesting because I was just having a conversation with my husband. So he feels that he's overweight right now. I mean, I think he looks
Oh,
great, but he's gained some weight apparently. And then we have actually a baby on the way. So I
oh,
am
well,
thank
congratulations.
you, thank you.
Mm.
And so we're a little bit older, like we're in our 40s. I'm 42, he's 40. We're going to turn 45 next month. And but we don't feel that. Like we feel like we're like 20. So we feel
Of
great
course, of course.
because we feel great. And then, but this is the thing. He's like, I'm going to do this with my exercise. I'm going to do this. I said, whoa, let's love your body a little bit here. Let's start off slow. Let's stretch first. You know?
How about if we, I mean, for me, how about if we just park a little bit further away in a parking lot?
Right. Yes. I just actually talked to somebody about that recently too, because it makes a big difference. I was sharing with her that I don't know about you, Leslie, but when I'm trying to get a close parking spot to the entrance of a store, I'm wasting more time just trying to find that spot. I would have already been in and out of the store if I had parked further away.
Well, and look at the health benefits. Look at
Yep.
the health benefits.
Steps. The steps.
It's all about the steps. It's all about the steps.
That's
But
right.
the other thing that starts to happen, let's say, your husband, he's trying to lose weight. Um, let's say somebody is, trying to give up alcohol or, cut down on their alcohol. Let's say you put yourself further away so that you are doing something that gives you time and opportunity to celebrate your choice.
That's right.
So you've got that time and you've got that opportunity to celebrate that choice, as you're moving from where you were and then, moving to where you want to be. And then your brain starts saying, you know what, this feels pretty good. But the thing that I discovered, the thing that I realized your brain doesn't know the difference between praise and criticism. It simply receives the information and it doesn't know the difference. But the more that we give it, the more it looks for. And for me, I mean, I don't know about you, and we're kind of going around this tree in a weird way, and I do apologize for that.
Oh no, I love it. I love
But
this.
I don't know about you, but for me, food was my way of not feeling what I really and truly felt. It was my way of not allowing in my true feelings, whether they were good, bad, or indifferent, because I had spent so much of my life being told that's not what I should be feeling.
Mm.
Instead, the emotions, the feelings that I was most comfortable with were shame. Being told you should be ashamed. Okay, I can handle that. I told somebody just the other day the two emotions that I felt the most, I was most comfortable in outside of shame, were anger and sad.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I used food as my drug of choice to numb down what I was really feeling because I didn't know how to experience those emotions. So again, my brain was looking for that negative self-talk. It was looking to feed off of that negative energy. And as a consequence, which I love the name of your podcast, Shine Within, as a consequence, I was dimming my own personal light because I was not allowing my true self to come through. And once I recognized, and I say this a lot, my feelings are my feelings and nobody else gets a vote.
Right.
And once I understood that, and when somebody would try and tell me what I should or should not be feeling, I would just look at them and not reply.
Yeah. Yes. I remember the growing up too. Like I would cry, as a child, as still do. I still
Sure,
cry.
sure,
And
sure.
then, like my older sister, oh, stop crying. Don't act like a baby. It's like, and like, but you know what I tell my kids now? Cry it out. Let
Exactly.
it out. I say, if you need a hug, mommy is right here. Just let out your emotion. And we have to go through them, we have to ride through them. It's like a wave, because
Mm-hmm.
most especially as a female, they're up and down. One moment I can be extremely happy, and then all of a sudden I can see some sad commercial and be like sad all of a sudden, and that's just how I am because I'm an empath too. I feel and sense. And so I tell my children to cry and to do what their soul wants them to do because that's how they shine, is when they're truly their authentic selves. And
And,
yeah.
and I like to say that tears are the words that your soul cannot speak.
I love that. Yeah.
We cry for a reason. We're not crying for no reason. And
Hmm.
when people tell us to not cry, they're essentially telling us to not feel.
Hmm.
And as children, we take that on and we start saying to ourselves, there's something wrong with me. There's something wrong with me if I'm crying. And so then we start believing that we're broken. So then when we feel that emotion, those tears starting up, we start that talk in the side of our head. It says there's something wrong with you. You shouldn't be crying right now. This is not good. This is not right. And then that tension starts building up inside of our bodies. And we wonder why in the heck we turn to something else to stop the pain.
Hmm. Yes, I had a recent conversation with somebody. It's like we use, whether it's food, alcohol, drugs, gambling, sex, whatever it is, to either feel or not to feel. Because like you're saying, we're told so many times not to feel our own emotion, but we're supposed to. We're human, and that's why we're here, is to have that human experience, to feel and to go through those emotions. And whether they're good or bad, they're part of what a human being experiences here on earth. So yeah, I mean, very similar things when it comes to addictions. I actually used to be a weight loss consultant many years ago, and I had so much fun with that because I battled a lot with food. I was more of an unaware eater. So
Mm.
let me just share a story. Back in high school, like I had a boyfriend, I think it was my senior year of high school, very giving, would give me everything and including food. So we would be eating out all the time, all these restaurants. We would go out everywhere, and I didn't realize like I was gaining weight. I thought I looked good still. I mean, at least he made me still feel like I look good. And then it wasn't until my mom's like family friend was at our house one day, and then like he sat me down with my mom, and then he just told me like, you're gaining a lot of weight. I was like, this is my senior year in high school. I was like, this is the first time I ever felt,
Mortified.
I was like so sad. Like I was just like totally fine with whatever. I wasn't even thinking about it until like he brought awareness to, and then I started looking at pictures of myself, and then I'm like, oh, maybe he's right. And I'm like, well, I was just getting bigger clothes because they felt more comfortable for me. But I felt like it's so devastated, and I felt so ashamed. And so my mom put me on this diet program that I wound up losing a lot of weight from all of a sudden. But I loved it so much that I wanted to start helping people lose
Mm.
weight. So that's what I got into after I turned like 21. And I had a great experience. And so I've had a lot of women come in there. We've talked about emotional eating, unconscious eating, and that was me. And I've always had a sweet tooth, and I still do to this day. Mm-hmm. Um, sweets and me, there's a love and hate relationship. When I have a piece of chocolate, I get a little bit happier. It just happens. It just tastes good. But
Mental.
yes, and I had to learn, okay, one is good enough, not the whole box of chocolates, Gina.
Well, if I might just make a quick
Yeah,
suggestion,
absolutely. Please do.
when you feel that sweet thing calling to you, go for protein.
I'm going to keep a mental note and also write that down after our show.
Yeah. I mean, for
Protein.
example, if you keep, I mean, I don't know if you like yogurt or don't like
Oh, I
yogurt.
love yogurt.
Okay, non-fat Greek yogurt is loaded with protein. It's low in fat, high
Yeah.
in protein, but it's good for you. If you just, even get 1 to 2 tablespoons of it, I promise you it'll probably calm that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, with your own transformation journey, can you actually delve into what initiated your transformation journey and from relying on food for comfort to then seeking a healthier lifestyle?
Well, what began the journey was this dark moment when I decided that I needed to get healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally. And I thought that the physical part was going to be the hard part. But what the physical part did was it uncovered the problems that I had with the mental and the emotional part. And the reason was I started because I didn't really know food portions or how to have a balanced diet or anything like that. I know that sounds insane and crazy, but it's the truth. Um, so I started following the Weight Watchers program. Anyway, I was tracking my food and I would write down everything that I was eating, and I would notice, let's say there was a day when I would eat, chips and cookies and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I would be looking at the list as I'm writing it, and this question came into my mind: what was going on when you ate all that?
Mm.
And I paused and I started thinking, well, what was going on when I ate all that? Because that wasn't what I had intended to eat. It wasn't what I had intended to do. It's what happened, but what was going on? So I started reflecting on what was going on, what I was feeling, the circumstances, the people, the event, whatever it was. And then after a few times of this, when I recognized there was a lot of emotions tied up in this, I said to myself, well, of course you felt that way. Why wouldn't you? So from that moment, I started having written conversations with myself, not where I was tracking my food, but just written conversations with myself in a notebook. And I do this every morning. I write 3 pages, not in a big 8.5 by 11 notebook, but in 6 by 7 or something like that. So I'm not intimidated by all the lines. But I have written conversations, and if I'm struggling with something that I'm feeling, I write out, this is what I'm feeling right now. This is what I wish would happen. This is what I wish the person would do. This is what I wish I would do. And then I'll take a breath and I'll say, well, of course you feel that way. Why wouldn't you feel that way? And that validation of my emotions after having spent almost my entire life denying what I really and truly felt is like a breath of fresh air.
Mm-hmm.
And as a consequence of validating my own emotions, it was like the Coke bottle that had been shaken up, the top is popped and it spews everywhere. The pressure was gone. And so now when I'm confronted with a situation or my emotions start running away or whatever, I'm not as likely to aim for the food or whatever. I'm not as likely to tear the pantry down trying to quiet what I'm feeling.
That's right. Yeah, I've noticed myself too, whenever I would be like, okay, am I really hungry or what's going on? Why am I going in the kitchen? Why am I going in the refrigerator right now? Am I hungry? Am I trying to feel something? Am I just wanting to satisfy the hunger that I have? And I've been really focusing on more like intuitive eating. Like I really listen to my body now, and I'm just like, I feel like I want to eat that fruit, even though I don't even, I mean, right now my hormones are all crazy. So who knows? I'm probably craving all these different things, every day is different. And you probably be mad at me for eating this yesterday, but yesterday I was craving, I don't even know why we have this in our cabinet, one of those top ramen noodles. And I just
Oh,
opened the packet and I poured some and I crunched. I just wanted something crunchy. I didn't eat the whole thing. I tossed the rest out. I just wanted a couple bites. But my
and
cravings have been
what is
crazy.
wrong with that? That's not crazy. What's wrong with that? That's what
Oh,
you wanted in that
you're
moment.
right.
It is what you wanted. You honored what you wanted instead of starting this battle with yourself. And that's the other thing. We start these battles with ourselves. Well, you can't have that. You can't have this. You shouldn't be eating that. And then we start this battle,
That's
and
right.
all that garbage from way back in our childhood starts racing forward. And all of those people who told us that we were bad or we should be ashamed or that we were not good enough, they all come to the forefront. And then as a consequence, whatever our drug of choice was suddenly becomes more powerful because we're trying to squash down what we're trying to not honor. And the only way that we know how to squash that down is by going to our drug of choice.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we relieve that pain, isn't it?
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. And I did actually enjoy having those bites, and I ate it very slowly. I savored the flavor. I was and enjoyed it. And I said, okay, that's about enough. And I was done.
And you were done.
And I was
And
done.
you were done.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, if you would have denied that, can you imagine what it would have turned into?
I know, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for clarifying that. It made me feel a little
Mm-hmm.
bit better. Now, I wanted I wanted to talk about your book, You Can't Eat Love. And it suggests a profound message about self-love and emotional fulfillment. Can you actually share a core message of your book and how it extends beyond food to other aspects of life?
The main message of the book is learning to love yourself can change your relationship with whatever your drug of choice is. And part of that is understanding that we're all on a journey. We're
Mhm.
all on a journey going somewhere. And so many times we allow some minor incident to derail us from the direction that we want to go. So throughout the book, I talk about being on a freeway and you run into a traffic jam. Now, you've probably been in multiple traffic jams in your entire life, right?
And accidents. Yeah.
Okay. How many times have you parked your car, gotten out, and walked home?
None.
No. What did you do when you hit the?
When I was in a traffic jam, I just had to be patient, put on a good
Mm,
podcast.
mhm. Exactly. You changed the radio, you listened to a podcast, you phoned a friend, you filed your nail, you
Yeah.
did something. But what you did not do was you did not park your car, you did not get out, and you did not walk home, did you?
That's right. Yeah.
And eventually, did that traffic jam clear up?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And you got to where you were going, right?
That's right.
It may have taken you a little bit longer, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if we start looking at the journey that we're going on, whether it is to write a book, to improve our health, to lose weight, to do whatever the heck it is that we are on a journey to do, if we start looking at those little bumps that we hit, those little obstacles that we run into that we think are going to totally derail us, and we throw up our hands and say, I can't do this. If we look at them like traffic jams, and we understand that all we need to do is change the radio station, phone a friend, listen to a podcast, do, something, and not get out of our car and not walk home, then we can see how we can incrementally get to where we're going. Because the other thing is, last time I checked, when you were in a traffic jam, was your car going backwards?
No.
No, it wasn't.
Pause.
You may have been totally stopped. You may have been creeping forward tiny, tiny, tiny bit, but you were not going backwards, were you?
Right.
So a lot of what I talk about in the book is how to see these things that happen in our life as a traffic jam and remind ourselves we're not going to park our car, get out and walk home. And then also, sometimes people talk about avoiding triggers.
Mm.
I don't know about you, but it's not a matter of avoiding a trigger. It's a matter of when the trigger is going to get pulled.
Right.
And so what I talk about in the book is helping people identify the triggers in their life, be it a something, a someplace, or a someone,
Mm-hmm.
and making plans for what you're going to do when that trigger gets pulled.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you may not execute your plan perfectly, but you're going to execute your plan better than if you did not have a plan. And
That's
that's
right.
that's what the book is talking about, and constantly celebrating the little tiny wins, constantly celebrating the small wins, and ignoring when you make a bad choice. And I have eliminated the words bad choice. They're either good choices, great choices, or not so good choices. There are no bad choices. Oh, and there's also no cheating.
No.
The only way you can cheat are on taxes or your significant other. That's it.
I always
Everything else is a choice.
That's right. And then we all have a choice, people always will say, "Oh, I have no choice." I'm like, "Yes, you do have a choice." What makes you think you don't have a choice? And I just wish, you actually just you talk about in your transformation how you describe discovering your best friend in yourself. I wish everyone had a best friend in them because for me anyway, I had an enemy that wanted to keep me as low as possible and not to seek my higher self, not to shine. Um, but once I started loving myself, which is then I was trusting myself, which then I was loving myself more and more, and listening to my inner guidance and just really, really doing things that I like to do and giving myself grace and compassion and not beating myself up for making a bad choice, like quote unquote, no bad choices. So, learning experiences, I would say. But how did you cultivate the inner friendship and what advice do you have for listeners who actually struggle with self-acceptance?
The way that I started developing a relationship with myself was through these written conversations that I talked about. I
Yeah.
have a notebook, and in the morning, I have written conversations with myself. I do not reread anything that I write. Why don't I reread it? Well, if you and I were not recording this conversation, if we were simply sitting somewhere and having, a Diet Coke or a coffee or whatever your, favorite beverage is, there is no recording of it.
Right.
So while I do have it in writing, I'm not rereading it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm constantly telling myself, well, actually, let me back up just a little bit. Where it really coalesced for me, it was right before Valentine's, and I was at the grocery store, And I saw this, and I was getting Valentine cards for different members of my family. And I happened to see this Valentine, and I looked at it, picked it up, opened it up. I said, I really wish someone would send this Valentine card to me. And I put it back and I walked off, and I got almost to the checkout stand. And this voice in my head said, go back, get that card, and send it to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So I went back and I got the card, put it with my groceries, paid for everything, got home, put all the cold stuff away, sat down with a pen and the card, wrote a letter to myself, telling myself how proud I was of myself, thanking myself for, making the decisions that I was making to get healthy mentally, physically, and emotionally, and telling myself, I know this is hard, and just, really, really praising myself and telling myself how wonderful I was. And I'm writing this all as if I'm writing to a third person. Then I took the card and put it in my calendar, and Valentine's Day rolled around and I opened it up. And even now, it still brings tears to my eyes because I remember how I felt when I read that card.
Mm-hmm.
And every Valentine since then, I've done the same thing. And it was in that moment that I really understood I don't need a best friend out there.
Right.
I can be my very best friend in the whole wide world, and I am available to me 24/7. And it was really in those moments that I was understanding the one person who had not been listening to me was me.
Mm-hmm.
Because so often, part of what our struggle is, and I'm not sure about you, but part of what my struggle was, I felt unheard.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt as if nobody was willing to take the time to listen to me. Well, when I started listening to myself, my need to be heard by everybody else started calming. And what it opened me up to was being able to hear what other people had to say.
Mm-hmm.
I could bring it in without judgment. I could bring it in without having to solve their problem. I could bring it in and just simply listen, acknowledge what they were feeling, acknowledge what they were saying, ask them, do you want me to help you solve this problem, or do you just need me to listen?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I say to people who are listening right now, if you're struggling with loving yourself, if you're struggling with feeling unheard, find a notebook in your house, a pen that you like to write with, and sit down and start having written conversations, honest written conversations with yourself about what you're really feeling. And know that whatever you are feeling, good, bad, ugly, indifferent, I don't really care. It is okay because your feelings are your feelings and nobody else gets a vote.
That's very beautiful. Yeah, so maybe I should start doing that for myself. And I really now that I've learned to love myself, and I mean I really do. Like I am my own best friend, and I'm okay to like I don't need validation from anybody. Like if they compliment me, that's good. If they don't compliment me, that's good. I don't care either way. It doesn't change me. Like I just am happy and content with who I am as a spiritual being. But I take myself out on dates. I sometimes I have to share with my husband, I'm so sorry, but I need to have my alone time and I need to take a walk somewhere. I mean, he gets it. He's fully fine with it. But I'm just like sometimes I enjoy my alone time. And this is where I feel like I'm closer to, whether you call it universe, God, for me, I say God. So I am closer to God when I'm by myself and my spirit. And it's just a beautiful thing. And being out in nature always makes me feel really comforted. Like I feel like, oh, I'm in my elements. Unless I'm doing one of those hard trails, and I feel like I'm torturing myself. Like, what did I do? What am I doing? But it's really just nice to be outdoors. And I take my journal with me and I will start writing how I'm feeling for the day, goals that I would like to have within a year, 5, 10 years, just to like start writing. And it is there's something very powerful with having a pen and piece of paper, you know. I mean, people can use their phones too, whatever is comfortable for them. But for me, it is always with the pen and paper. I love that. And maybe I'll start doing what you do and start writing a card to myself on Valentine's Day. That's great.
Well, I think that pen and paper is way more powerful than electronics.
I think
And
so
the
too.
reason is, there's that brain hand and moving across the paper connection. And I think that we can be more honest with ourselves when we are actually physically writing rather than hands on the keyboard. Because I don't know about you, but a lot of times when my hands are on the keyboard, while I'm thinking the words, I'm also thinking other things.
Hmm.
But there is, I don't know the science. I'm not a scientist, so I can give you Leslie science. I think that it is easier to be honest with yourself when you are physically writing than it is to be honest with yourself when you're doing it electronically.
Hmm.
And I want to emphasize be honest with yourself. One day, this is about a year or so ago, I was really, really angry with some people. Very, very, very angry to the point that I was up earlier than normal. And I was doing my morning writing and I was dancing all around the subject. And finally, I wrote, "Who are you lying to?" And then the next line was, "I'm lying to myself." And if we understand, we are three people. We are me, myself, and I. Me and myself want us to be happy, so they'll go along with anything that makes life easy. I sees everything. So then the next thing that I wrote was, "I know exactly what you're thinking, so why are you trying to lie about it?" And then I wrote, "You're right." And I wrote down what I was really feeling, including, "I wish this person would hurry up and die." Now that sounds horrible, but don't tell me that you haven't had similar thoughts. Maybe not that drastic, but my point is with sharing that is if we can be honest with ourselves about what we are really feeling in that moment, what happens is that feeling then loses its power. And we can recognize, well, in that moment, that is how I felt. And once I expressed it and once I acknowledged it, it no longer had the power. I no longer, was wishing, hoping, or anything like that. I was able to move on because I quit lying about what I was really feeling. So that's what I'm saying. Be honest about what you're really feeling. Now, if you're concerned about someone reading your writing, just shoot me an email and I will mail you a box of matches and you can burn your words. But take the time, trust me, write what you are really feeling, good, bad, ugly, celebratory, whatever it is. Be honest with yourself and stop lying to yourself.
Yes, these are definitely some good practices too to have. And then you mentioned the importance of changing our internal narratives. Can you actually provide some other practical steps or even exercises that our listeners can start with so that way they can foster a healthy relationship with themselves?
Well, we teach other people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. And how many times have you dropped something, broken something, done something, and you've talked about how clumsy you were, how stupid you were, how, whatever, and you're talking to yourself and about yourself in not a very nice way.
Yeah.
I mean, we do it all the time. So what I realized is how many times I was doing that. And as soon as I would catch myself, I think I dropped a plate, broke a plate. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Was so stupid." I was like, "Wait, hold on. Your hands were wet. The plate slipped. It hit the floor. It broke. It's a fact. Move on." Which goes back to, we're not going to talk about anything that we don't want to continue. So we start reframing. We catch that negative self-talk and we start flipping the script on it. "I can't believe I was so clumsy." No, let's flip that. It was a little bit slippery today and I didn't wear, very good shoes. And so it made the walking a little bit treacherous. Is that a lengthier way of saying I'm clumsy? Yeah, maybe so. But think about how you feel as you are starting to flip that self-talk. And as we flip the way we talk to ourselves, we're going to start hearing how other people are talking to us.
Mm-hmm.
And then we can say to them, when they tell us you're so clumsy, we can say to them just, very simply, very gently, I am not clumsy. It was a circumstance, it was a situation, and just move on. Let's focus on behavior and not people. But the first thing is listen to how you are talking to yourself and about yourself. And when you do flip that script, when you do catch yourself and you do flip that script and say, yes, I did it, and celebrate doing that. But as soon as you become more comfortable with flipping the scripts, you're going to start seeing that other people are either going to start changing how they talk about you, or they're going to get uncomfortable around you. Because as we change, especially when we start healing our souls and whatever our drug of choice is starts losing its grip on us, the people around us have to do one of two things. They either have to change or they have to move to Pluto.
That's
So
right.
that, they're not impacting us anymore. But
Yeah.
once we decide to take care of ourselves, once we decide that we are worth loving because we are all amazing people, we are not responsible for somebody else's comfort, discomfort, or anything else. You are only in control of you, and you are not in control of anyone else. You're
Mm-hmm.
about to have a baby. You're not even in control of that baby other than where you set it down. That's it. That is
That's
it.
right. Yes, and it's so true. We are responsible for ourselves. And going back to the workouts, because my husband and I said, do what your body can do, listen to your body, because you are responsible for your own body. So just because you're following a regimen or an app on whatever your phone and they're saying do this many, I said, really listen to your body. And then if you feel like you need to take a break, take a break. Listen to your body. So we are responsible for our own selves. And this is we're responsible how we respond to the world, when things are thrown at us and we're getting these curveballs and everything. It's like, ah. But how do we respond makes a big difference. And you're right about people in our lives who are around us and how we talk to ourselves, how we represent ourselves, how we start then they see how we start loving ourselves. They will either then start saying, oh, maybe I need to do this for myself too. She's a great example. Or they're like, oh no, dissolve. And they just are out of your life all of a sudden. And then they're like, where'd they go? So yeah, you're absolutely right about that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I like that you're telling that your husband, if your body can't do that, what I like to tell people is, where you are today is where you are today.
Mhm.
Meet you where you are. Tomorrow you're going to be someplace different.
Yeah.
But today you need to meet you where you are, not where you want to be. You,
Mhm.
you need to start here. It's like
Yes.
I live in Texas, okay, and from the entrance to I-10 where I live, it is 740 miles to the other end of Texas,
Mhm.
okay. I cannot get on the freeway and say I want to be in El Paso. I wish I could, because then I wouldn't have to drive for 15 hours to get to El Paso, but I can't. So it's the same thing with us. Whenever we start something new, we need to meet us where we are.
Mhm.
If we struggle with not talking nicely to ourselves, you know what? Let's try once a day and celebrate that once a day. If we're starting an exercise program, let's start, with one day of exercise. Let's celebrate that one day of exercise. I'm not talking about exercising for 2 hours, 30 minutes. Start somewhere. If we are trying to give up, some other drug of choice, celebrate that we made it through one day, 1 hour, 1 minute, whatever it is. But start where you are. not where you want to be. Because like I said, I cannot get on I-10 right here where I am and just, blink and suddenly be in El Paso. No, I have to travel every single one of those 740 miles to get to El Paso. And it's the same with everything else that we do.
So I love that. Yes, I'll have to remind him. And then what I love is the point that you're bringing is celebrate your wins. Like celebrate that you're even just, did 10 minutes. 10 minutes is a
Yeah.
start, even 5 minutes, heck, something.
Mm-hmm.
And the little wins is what's most important. And then you will then start loving yourself a little bit more because you're celebrating you. And then once you become your best friend, there's just no stopping. And then everything everything is just a lot easier. It feels like, well, for me anyway, I'm talking about myself. Like everything feels a little bit easier because I have inner peace. And if you think about it, if everyone had inner peace within themselves, we literally would have world peace.
Well, we would. And the other thing that I came to understand as I'm learning to love myself, well, then my need, my desire, my yearning
Mhm.
for somebody else to give me what it was that I thought that I needed started really and truly decreasing. And somebody was saying to me the other day, they wish that someone would do something, apologize or something. I said, really and truly, stop and think about it. If you gave them a script that from how they moved their eyes to how they stood to their intonation to their body language to everything, and they acted out that script exactly as you detailed it, you would not feel satisfied because you would be wondering what is their motive, what is their intention and all of that. So when we start giving ourselves what our self desires, needs, and yearns for, we are no longer struggling to find it outside of ourselves.
Mhm.
And that's where real peace and real healing comes in. Because as soon as we stop looking outside for everything that we already have inside, then we can really start living our very best life. And as you like to say, we can shine from within.
Yeah.
We don't need somebody else's light shining on us because our own light has been uncovered, unveiled, and it's shining just as brightly as any lighthouse that you can
Mhm.
imagine.
Oh, I love what you just said. It's beautiful. Wow. And so I know you've inspired a lot of our a lot of our listeners that are like, oh, I want to read her books. I want to get to know Leslie. Actually, Leslie, do you do any type of coaching at all, or is it mostly like speaking engagements and writing?
I do some one-on-one. I'm select about who I work with because I want to make sure,
Right.
that they're willing to do the hard work of the hard work.
Absolutely.
Because I don't hold your hand, I guide you. Uh,
I love that. Yeah. Yes, 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 yes. Now, where can our listeners go ahead and find you either on social media, your website, or and find your books?
The easiest place to find everything about me, including social media and the books, is on the website, which is youcan'teatlove.com. Facebook is also You Can't Eat Love. And there are places where you can message me and I do reply. So I love to hear from people. I love to have conversations. And it is me that's replying. I've had people say, are you a real person? Yes, I'm a real person.
I know sometimes they have a virtual assistants. I don't have anything like that myself. So when I'm replying, it's really me too. Everyone. Um, but yes, yeah, it's nice to have the actual person that you're trying to reach out respond to you instead of somebody else or something else. Who knows with all AI and stuff.
Oh, I know. It's crazy. But it's really me. I type every single solitary word.
Right, right. Now, lastly, what's the most important takeaway you would like our audience to remember from your journey and your work, especially for those who may be struggling with similar like drug of like addictions, like alcohol, food, whatever that their addiction is, their drug of choice.
To know that in this moment, you are enough exactly as you are. And if you're not able to believe it for yourself right now, I will believe it for you until you are able to believe it yourself.
That's very beautiful. Well, thank you so much, Leslie, for just sharing your wisdom and just sharing your love to our audience today. I really appreciate you and all you do, and thank you.
Well, thank you, Gina. This has been fun.
My pleasure.